Hello, my name is Pete Ashby from asaleader.com. Thank you so much for landing on this page where we want to try and tell you a little about our publication on the virtues and vices of exceptional leaders. We're going to have 3 videos just opening up with you some of the thinking behind this, and this is the first one of them. I've been lucky enough over quite some years to work with all sorts of leaders, and I've come to the view that some are exceptional. And as I've become closer to them and their teams, and now in recent years I've done more one-to-one mentoring with some CEOs, I've been struck by some of the behaviours that I wasn't expecting to find, and I think have a significant impact on business performance. In Virtues and Vices, I write about 7 of them, where there's a spectrum from virtue at one end to vice at the other. And just slight movements, shifts in behaviour across that spectrum can have a real impact on business performance. So I want to bring to life 2 of them for you now, to try and open them up, and I hope each of them will maybe be of use to you. I write the publication as if I'm talking to you as an exceptional leader, so I'll try and do this brief video in the same way, being very conscious, of course, that leaders who are exceptional would nearly always never declare themselves as that. So I obviously speak to you as an exceptional leader in denial about that, at least for these purposes. Okay, the first one you'll see on this page, which is from the virtue of the loner to the vice of the excluder. In my experience, nearly all exceptional leaders, at least the vast majority, are loners. By loners, I don't mean, the Christmas party, I'm sure you might be the last on the dance floor. I don't mean unsocial, but I mean that you tend to take stuff home with you, especially when there's a problem that's been working round in your mind. You find it difficult to switch off, you take it home, and part of your brain is sort of processing it. Even at the weekend, often the most dangerous time. On one level, you're going through all the motions of doing all the family, social stuff we're meant to do at weekends. There's part of you still working away, turning the stuff round and round, especially if there's a tricky problem. And many CEOs still have a Monday morning exec team meeting, and as a loner, sometimes if maybe some stage in the middle of the night on Sunday, you get a solution. When you get to the team on the Monday morning, you spend hours on this blooming thing. You get there, say, right, got it sorted, guys. There's that problem there. We should do this. Okay? You've got a busy day. You've got meetings lined up. You've got stuff to discuss. You don't hang around to discuss how you got from A to Z. You just say, this is it. And if you're not careful, that behaviour turns you, the loner, into the excluder. I don't say this lightly. I occasionally get involved in conflict resolution work, and a few years ago I got involved in a very tricky conflict where the chief exec and deputy CEO were just on the verge of resigning. Very good balance sheet, very good business, but real problems at the top because the chief exec compulsively had this behaviour of taking stuff home at the weekend, coming to a solution and dumping it on the team. So what I would say to you is, you might see yourself as a problem solver, and you think, bloody hell, I've been working overtime on this problem, getting a solution. But for the team, unless you engage with them, you are the dumper and the excluder. So 2 suggestions, if I may, on this one. The first one, which is the fairly modest, tame suggestion. I know it sounds obvious, but not everyone does it, which is if you have a solution to a problem and you've been processing on your own at night, at the very least, share some of your reasoning as to how you achieved your breakthroughs that got you to your solution. You might not want to give the A to Z of it, but you might say, by the way, I got stuck on M and this got me to P. You give some bit of your logical reasoning so they can see how you got to your end result. And you then say, one can argue this is basic courtesy. By the way, guys, before we discuss you doing it, what do you think? Does it sound right to you? Has anyone else been thinking it through with a different outcome to mine? Because if you don't think this is right, I'm really keen to hear and discuss it before we go into implementation mode. You create the space for someone to say, I'm not sure because. Okay, so number 1, create the space. Number 2, in my view, this will sound more radical, but this is much more useful over time. And I've tried this with a number of CEOs and their teams, and without exception, it has worked really, really well. Tell yourself when you are processing a really tricky problem that you don't want to get to the final solution. You don't want the ball quite in the back of the net. You want to get some way down the road. You want to feel there's nearly a breakthrough, then you want to take to the team a half-baked solution and ask them if with you they will give it 15 or maybe 30 minutes to get a fully baked final solution as a team solution. I don't mean this just as a tactic, I really don't, because if it felt like that, they would think they're being manipulated. I mean this as a discipline. I mean, if you have a top team who are caliber and you're the guy, woman in charge of recruitments, they should be a good team, and you've got a tricky problem keeping you awake at night, you want them in on that creative process with you. You want them to see that they are part of bringing about that solution jointly with you. So to me, the symbol of the half-baked solution isn't one of you having a half-done job. It's one of you honouring and respecting what your team can give you with the tricky stuff to get you to a breakthrough that can impact on your business performance, which is what the whole thing is about. So the half-baked solution, which you take to them and say, this is hard. I think I'm nearly there, guys. I'm not there yet. I want to tell you where I've got to, and I want to see if together we can really clinch it. That is tremendous for the dynamic of the team. I'm not suggesting you do this on everything. For many things, you want the solution, you want to move it on. You don't have to give them the inner thinking of your back of your brain cells and everything you're working through. But on the hard stuff that keeps you awake at night, then you want the team in on it because you want them as part of that creative process. And the other lovely thing about this is think of the modelling of the leading by example. You as chief exec are saying, I don't need just to sort this. I need you to realise I want your creativity in on this with me. One last thing, if I may, on behaviour. Going back to the example I gave of the team essentially falling apart. When we got to understanding what was going on, I was talking to the chief exec after many hours of going around all the possible solutions. What came out is this chief exec, very driven, very hungry, of course, as are all exceptional leaders, was worried the one or two of the younger members of his team that he'd recruited, who were damn good, would be quicker on their feet than him, and he would be shown to be slow. That's partly why he felt he had to have the solution. Classic, isn't it? Most of our dysfunctional behaviours are born of our fear of inadequacy or fear of being seen by our top colleagues to be inadequate. Because he was worried he wouldn't be quick enough on his feet with his team, he excluded to a point where he had a major rebellion on his ranks. Okay? Many of us do that, you know. We will want to get it too far. That classically, the reflector will do that. They'll want to get it so far on their own because they think they might be seen to be slow or cumbersome or not as good or bright or sharp or agile as others in their team. So I would say, with great respect, we need to get over this. If they actually find one or two of them are quicker on their feet than the boss, that can actually be really good for them. And you are so far down the road of getting your solution, in any event, you are way ahead of the game. And you are honouring what they have to offer you as being part of that creative process with you. So that's the first one. As a loner, try and make sure you don't develop the vice of becoming the unintentional excluder of your team. Second one, from the virtue of the chief executive who does conflict to the vice of the CEO who avoids it. Conflict's fascinating. Before I started doing this intensive work I now do with CEOs and top teams, I assumed people who are chief execs would be quite good at conflict, would be okay at it because you pay good money, and I thought it was all part of it goes with the job. What strikes me now, almost no surprise, is the exceptional leaders. Many of you don't like conflict and will go to considerable lengths to avoid it. It's no surprise now because, as I understand it, part of why you are exceptional is because you have heightened antennae and sensitivities. You pick stuff up very quickly. You read situations quite intensely. It's why you perform at the level at which you perform. But what it means is some conflict stuff you hate because it reverberates around your being with an intensity that many people don't have. So I see why you don't like it. But I also see, and this is the powerful bit that leads to the problems, Why you think, as I thought a few years back, as CEO, you're meant to be okay with it. You can't say to your PA or your exec, by the way, guys, I don't like this stuff. I'm not very good at it. I want to avoid it. So it tends to go undiscussed. You don't own it. Now, because you're exceptional, they rate you, okay? They think they're damn lucky to have you as chief executive. So what do they do as a loyal team? They want to protect you from the conflict that they know you don't like, and they know you don't discuss it with them because they know you think you're meant to be okay about it, but really you're not quite, for all the reasons we know. Okay, they protect you. All this goes undiscussed. So maybe the early warning you might be given of something brewing at a plant somewhere, you're not quite given because hopefully it will blow over. The rather tricky, difficult, brutal thing that's coming from a supplier is written up in a note and not quite so brutal and stark and full of conflict as it really was. Things are managed. The truth is diluted, is softened. The difficult message is made easier. You see, this is easy, but it's a slippery slope. And for you, it's critical to your business and turnaround performance. Because if something blows and blows big, and you say, why the hell wasn't I told this was coming, guys? They want to say to you, well, actually, we know you don't like conflict, so we were trying to do the right thing, and I'm really sorry. We thought it was going to be okay, and it wasn't. They didn't tell you enough in time. They overprotected you. I have seen a whole number of exec teams where sometimes, interestingly, the FD will be the lead protector of the exec, or one or two will go into sort of big mama protect role towards the CEO, and others will see it happening and won't come in, and it will be a managed, guarded, safe dance around the CEO in which things are not said because they know you don't like conflict. Okay, this can be a major dysfunction at the top, and it's because of you not discussing how you are and very loyal people trying to compensate. Okay, so all decent stuff, but there's a mess in terms of performance. Suggestion number one, and this is great modelling of leadership: own your dislike of conflict. By the way, guys, very relaxed, straightforward at the exec team, no dancing about this on your part. By the way, I'm crap at conflict. I'm not good at it. But let's be clear, if I've got to do it, I will do it. I'm paid more than you, so no problem with that. If it goes with the job, it goes with the job. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. But I've got to tell you, as you know, I'm not good at it. So if something comes up and one of us can do it, and it doesn't have to be me as CEO, if anyone wants to volunteer to be a troubleshooter, sometimes that's terrific. I love it. Okay, but I want to say to you, do not protect me. Because I'm chief exec, I need to know the bits that are gritty and potentially going wrong as early as anyone else. So don't please manage the information flow to wrongly protect me because you're letting me and the business down. You need to be explicit. You need to be clear. What I like about this is if you do this, you will probably be struck by one or two others who say, I'm really glad you said that, Pete, because actually I don't like it either. And with my team, I know they may be dancing around me a bit. So I'm going to say to them just what you've said to me with my team. You give them permission to own what they regard as a weakness, which isn't a weakness because it's part of your sensitivity. It's part of your build. It's part of how you are. It's only a weakness when you don't own it. It's only a weakness when you conceal and it sort of goes underground and they then do their dance around you. And when you get to virtues and vices, the whole thing at the end is all about avoiding the dance. Too many people dance around their chief exec. So if you want to be the chief exec who does conflict and doesn't avoid it, and you don't like conflict, own it. Very clearly tell them you don't want to be overprotected. And then you will find with your team collectively you will manage it much better having owned it, and you will give them permission to do the same. There are others that follow, but I hope these two have been useful, and in a couple of weeks' time we'll share one or two more. Thank you ever so much for your time today. Thank you.